Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now it's time for your weekend tech tip, brought to you by Chevy Silverado.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, this is one of those things where you go, God, I wish I would have thought of that, because it is very interesting. First things first, let's take a look at that Kershaw Tech Cam, and I'm just going to show you what I'm going to put onto my net handle, and then also I'm going to attach it to the net bag itself. Now, this is the Beckman net, of course, the best only. It is the perfect salmon net, at least in my opinion. It's a little bit big of a net, I think, for my drift boats. I might make a change there, but at the very least, one of the biggest issues that we run into when you're fishing alone, okay, now not necessarily is this only for when you're fishing alone, but I spend a lot of time doing that, and sometimes I get lucky, and you need to land that fish. Well, the biggest problem that you typically run into is that bag is going to get caught up on literally, if there's something for it to find, it's going to find it. You know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. So ultimately what's going to happen here, and I'm sure that you're catching on, is this is just a way to get that bag hung on your handle so that you don't have to, one, keep your finger on it when you're holding that rod in one hand and trying to scoop out with your other. Okay, now you can see here that I've got some foam on here. This was after given to me by Stuart Carr from S&C Rod Racks. This is a super slick way where it'll be more comfortable, one, under your arm, and you just get a little bit better grip when you're pulling and getting that net underneath the fish. But look what that bag is doing, okay? That bag, let alone being out there with that fish swimming around, and a lot of times it's going to be with that big 360 flasher out there, hooks and everything else, it is nothing but bad, okay? My record, I don't even know if I should say it, I have literally never knocked anybody else's fish off in my lifetime. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I've never knocked a fish off. I've knocked one of mine off. I did it to myself, and it was exactly with the situation that we're talking about. That bag was in the water. Fish made a rip underneath it, got one of the two mooching hooks in there, or mooching rig, fish and herring, underneath the bridge on a shelf. That one hook got into the bottom of that bag, and that was the end of it. Okay, so when I had a chance to get exposed to this was last year. We're going to put up the information of the individual that actually manufactures these things. He just makes them in his garage. It's not a big deal kind of thing. This is more of giving you an idea of what it is that you can do, but this is super slick. So let me just show you how this is going to go. If you go ahead and contact Tony and he sends you what his setup is, again, this is something that you can do yourself if you can find the right parts, but this is just a magnet, okay? Nothing too fancy here, but to get the right one, I think would be the challenge, because it does come apart when that net gets under the fish goes into the bag, hits the bottom of the bag. This thing comes apart very easily. I found I was a little concerned the first time, of course, because, you know, you're panicking. You finally get a fish, you get it to the boat, you don't want to lose the thing, right? So in your mind, you're like, oh, God, what's going to happen here? Well, if this can take away one of those concerns, it's worth it. And again, there's a number of ways that you can do this, I would assume. It's just got to be something you come up with for yourself. So first things first, what I'm going to do here is when Tony manufactures them, he's got this rubber ring, okay? Now this ring, you can just take at least in the setup that I have, I'm not going to be running it from the bottom. You just pull the yoke of the net off, you slide it over, and it'll end up somewhere here on your handle, right? Now this is where it failed for me, okay? Just so that we're all clear as can be, mine broke and I did it. Because when I was running my net out to get to a fish, okay, at least it was a fish, I ran it across the gunnel of the sled and it broke that O-ring here. He did upgrade. This is significantly bigger than the first one that I had, but yet still, I'm gonna go with a zip tie. And the one that I got from him most recently, this particular one, it came with a smaller zip tie here, but I'm going to actually upgrade that to a little bit bigger. So here's what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to set mine up. If you go ahead and do something like this, you can do anything that you want, but I'm cutting that off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run the zip tie right on here. I'm going to put the split ring. And Julie, forgive me, I apologize ahead of time, everyone. I'm going to be all over the place here. But I'm just going to kind of get that on there. I'm not going to cinch it down, mainly because when everything is said and done, I want it positioned, and this is all in my head. I haven't fished it this way yet, but I want to make sure that it's in a position where this little piece here isn't also going to get caught up. So I'm just going to make sure it's on the bottom. I always have my net set the same way when I'm especially alone. I set my net up in a very specific location on the bow of the boat so that if I do get lucky, all I got to do is just reach over, grab it, and again, hopefully not screw it up, and just easily get the net into the water for the fish, okay? That being said, if something can go wrong, trust me, it's going to go wrong. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to start out with that just cinched on there. I'm going to take the clip off that you can see here. Now that clip goes to the bottom of your bag, okay? Now I'm not going to be too particular here. I just want to be in a location that's somewhat in line with the seam that's on the bag. And then I'm going to grab, 3 or 4 pieces of the bag itself, and then I'm just going to clip this on. I was a little concerned with that the first time. I didn't have any issues with that whatsoever. It seemed to stay solid as far as being clipped to the bag itself. Never had any issues. But now I'm going to go ahead and clip it on, and I'm going to find where that spot is where it's going to at least keep that bag out of the way. Now that I'm looking at it, and we're all doing this together, this is live television, everyone, I'm going to actually move that clip down more towards the middle of the bag because I want to get more of the bag up and out of the way. So I'm going to grab it in the middle, maybe the middle half. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab 2 or 3 of the spots here, whatever you want to call it, and then there you go. That kind of cleaned up. Now, you see how that's going to be positioned. I'm going to put it, actually, it's going to fit perfect. Tony, I got lucky here. Now, I'm just going to zip tie this down as tight as I can get it, okay? Because I don't want it sliding all the way. Wow, perfect. That worked out even better than I thought. Okay, so now that it's actually clipped on there, all I got to do is pull it back. Now, I love this thing. Now you can actually go ahead, get your fish up close to the boat, okay? Don't rush it. That's a situation when you're fishing solo, you need to play the fish out, make sure that everything's good to go. Then you can go ahead and make your stab, okay? Just get yourself a good shot. Get the fish up nice and tight, and then get under it. Once you do, that fish gets into the bag, it drops out. Super, super slick. And now, again, in a perfect world, your fish is in the bottom of the net. It ain't dropping out. It ain't jumping out, although that does happen. And then when everything is said and done, you just pull that back, clip it back, put it right back up onto the front of the boat. You don't have to flip it over the top of itself. You don't have to do anything. I just let it sit just like this, basically, on the back of the seat in the front of the boat and then on the bow. So again, it's not something that you have to go out and purchase. You can put something like this together on your own. There's a number of ways that I'm sure that you could do it. I've never come up with a good way to do it. Tony has, and we've shown you his contact info if you want to get a hold of him. I know he's got a handful available. You maybe can put yourself on a list if you want to try to get one down the road if he ultimately runs out. But I really like that zip tie on there. That ain't going to break. I should not have said that. But at the very least, it's a super slick little tool. And Tony, I really appreciate, he came up to me one day this past spring Chinook season and was like, hey, try this thing out. That same day, when I put that on, I netted a fish with it. And from that moment on, I was pretty, when I broke it, I was not happy. I'll just put it to you that way. The zip tie is a pretty good way to go, no doubt about it. All right. There you go. That's your Chevy Silverado Tech Tip of the Week. Hopefully it'll help you manage that bag a little bit better, and maybe just give you an idea, again, if you do fish solo, a way that you can, make that panic moment a little bit more manageable, again, by adding a little bit of, grip to it, a little bit of technique of getting that underneath. That's why you want that extendable handle. You can see how long this handle is. This is actually the 4x4 where it slides into itself. What would you call that, Dale? Telescopic? Something like that. But it is a slick little way to be more successful, primarily when you're solo, but again, anytime that you got a fish in the water that you need to get into the net. All right, we're going to cut to a break. When we come back, I've got I have the Deal of the Week from Fisherman's Marine, and we'll line you up on what we got going on for tomorrow, which is going to be another good one. Also, a couple of Facebook questions, since we don't have a phone call coming in right now, that we're going to try to get answered as well. We'll be right back.